So people might guess we've sort of held back on some aspects. What is the ugly point that you would like to discuss on this particular show, Tommy?
I think it's absolutely unbelievable that the heroic players literally on their own video that was published on their own terms admitted that they covered up their coach cheating and said, please don't cheat anymore. And everybody's just like, it's fine. Like, what were they going to do? Like, what, they're supposed to, like, give up their coach? Like, how do you think that is? Like, are you fucking kidding me now? Like, this reminds me of the old story that Duncan remembers, where my team was playing against SK at the time, was Forest and Get, right? In like an online game. And we're doing like the ping check before the game. And what basically was the result was we should play on a Finnish server because Swedish internet was so much better that we'd have like 5 lower ping, but it was closer to the same. And the SK guys basically said like, okay, well, like, we're just not playing there. And the admin was like, well, we kind of like Forest and Get, right? We're fans, so you're going to play on their server, even though it's against the rules. And the reason I say that is why this will never change, because those guys have more fans. And like, no matter what, like somebody from ESIC says what I say, those are the players that people want to watch play. And every single fan who sees complaints about them is going to say like, well, like, sure, it wasn't great, but also like, how much would it suck if they banned them? We wouldn't get to see them play. And I think it's ultimately a popularity context plus the stuff that we talked about earlier. And like, I just think it's unbelievable that everybody's glossing over this publicly. I know privately there's very many people who are very pissed off, who are holding back and are not speaking about it. Players, people in the organizations, other people in the industry. But for some reason, people are just like unwilling to talk about it publicly. And I think it's so fucking ridiculous that these guys literally admitted to knowing he cheated, hid it for like a year, however long it's been, year and a half, and nothing comes out of it. Like, it's fine. It's fine. Everybody would have done the same.
It is like, it's obviously just so bad. It is so bad. Yeah, it's something that I noticed too when I was watching it. There's another, like, that happened, and then also my take on it is like Tessus definitely knew he was cheating when he boosted that guy. Like, because the way they like do the boost, and then it's like he has to boost him, and then while Hunden's there, he has to type .coach or whatever. I thought it was like, it's a boost and then you do some like reconnecting, like in terms of how they showed how it all works. Like, what? So you're boosting him, you're explaining that you boosted him and you think it's a harmless boost, but he suddenly reconnects and does .coach after doing that. Like, it's just, you cheated. You just know you did. Like, so it's not even just Tessus knowingly did it. It's that they all knew they did it after that video came out, and that's just, yeah, it's just terrible. It's really terrible. It's really terrible that because they don't have proof that they knew, even though they kind of said they knew, that they just get a slap on the wrist. Even that, it's not even a slap on the wrist. Actually, there's no punishment at all. And I forgot who I was talking to about this, but it was kind of like a point that it would be probably better in some ways. Oh, it was Anders, actually. It was probably better if all the heroic guys did get a 6-month sentence or something. They serve some kind of punishment so that we all know that they have, like, that they have to serve a punishment. That's like what the judicial system is for. You have to serve time for committing a crime. And because they have no punishment at all, and they come up with this sob story video that we're all supposed to be like, I saw Cadian cry, so I should empathize with him, but you're knowingly cheating. Like, I don't care if you cry if you cheated. Like, that's probably like watching, some cyclist that did blood doping start crying when he gets convicted. It's just like, I have no remorse.
Caught,
yeah, you're sad you got caught. Then yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And I mean, also, by the way, so before you go in, Duncan, because I assume you'll have some fire opinions here as well. The other thing is, like, when people say this stuff like, like Hunden's their senior, he's like a legend in the game, like, give me a fucking break. This guy has the worst stats across all of HLTV. He's been an absolute meme in the community for the last 5 years for how bad he was. And like 2 weeks before he joined Heroic, he was cut from Mad Lions because he was so bad. And you're telling me this is like some all-time godfather figure whom you could never question? Like, give me a fucking break.
It's not Fallen. It's right.
Right, here's the main issue I have with this whole topic, because actually, if people will know if they watch that Four Horsemen, which is like a month ago now or something, Am and now sound very different, because guess what? Not only has different information emerged, but the framing of the evidence we had has changed for a third time. So here's the problem I have with this whole case. First of all, like I said in my tweet, I don't have the concrete evidence where I know for a fact that these players cheated or helped cheating, etc. Although I will say they've admitted it, but that technically itself is not actually concrete evidence. They could be lying. They could be lying now, by the way. They could have some reason to say so. But I'll just say what I've always said about Flusher. I don't know that Flusher cheated, but I think he cheated. I can say that. That's an absolutely perfectly legitimate statement. By the way, I think people like Shocks who walked back their statements similarly are pieces of shit, and I actually think we're morally compromised because of this exact issue, that it's an unpopular opinion. People don't want to believe that players they like cheated, and even other players don't want to actually believe it. They want to believe, there's some misunderstanding. So I think what's happened in this whole case goes like this. Basically, Richard, in his pursuit of the truth, single-handedly seems to have turned the whole community to the idea that actually the players are all innocent. And it goes like this. One, Hunden has now turned out to be a way, way more morally and ethically compromised individual than we even knew. So he's the main villain. And if you know how the power dynamic works, you send all your hate and your psychic projection and you vent it all onto Hunden, right? He's the ultimate piece of shit. He's the bad guy. He's the fucking guy. He was the one at the end, he would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids at ESIC. Like, he's the one who's the bad guy, right? But the problem with that is, we're making it, he's the bad guy and everyone else is good. Then add in that he essentially socially manipulated Nico into making one of the pieces of evidence. Well, yes, we all feel sympathy for Nico and we all think that's a horrible situation. Doesn't change what you guys have just said, that the players themselves have admitted that they knew there was cheating involved. Now, the fact you feel sorry for Nico doesn't make that cool, that they're just staying silent on it all. And what the fuck, by the way, does that have to do with all the people not called Nico? Then the third detail is this. The Tessus angle was the idea that all he had was a server log that they'd gone and done the boosts, right? Well, obviously, you can't fucking find anything from that. Like, they're not having a conversation like, right, you boost me, dude, so I can cheat. Yes, I will, sir. Like, there's no real evidence there, right? So the problem is this. If you just say that out loud, like, oh, he boosted him into a spot and then Hunden later cheated from that spot, like, it isn't how Maui Snake just characterized it. It sounds like Hunden just goes, hey, Tessus, I've got a cool boost and you're going to be the guy who boosts him in the server, so come here and I'm going to boost you and you're going to throw smoke. Now, that is so different from what Maui Snake just explained, which is that it seems a lot more like the way it was done, Tessus would really have to be quite naive or just an outright fool to not know something's going on.
Also, because it's not like, hey, here's a boost spot, let me see. Like, you look at the Spirit video where Hunden was glitched. It's like on the middle of catwalk in middle. Yeah. Like, nobody would ever stand on somebody's head there. Like just give me a break. Go
beggars belief. Exactly. So again, that isn't concrete evidence. Basically, you have to be an expert like we are about the game to know it's bullshit. But you can see why, before people really thought about it, all these details combined with the way that Richard did it, because what he wanted to do was protect Nico and he wanted to show how bad Hunden was. I think it's basically made everyone, black and white, hop from fuck everyone in Heroic to just fuck Hunden and the Org a bit, but the others are all innocent, right? They aren't innocent as far as we can tell. Like, everything they have now since said actually is essentially sort of like, right, we'll admit it a little bit because we know we're not being punished and that's the end of it, right? We can just get away with it. Like, they have just got away with cheating. But here's what's crazy. I'll give you some historical precedents, right? So every fucking stupid fan at the time and for half a decade since has told me that the ultimate crime of Fnatic with the infamous Olaf boost is that when they found the boost on YouTube, they didn't immediately contact Valve and tell them the boost existed, right? Anyone who even thinks that doesn't know Pro Counter-Strike. You don't fucking go with a straight fire boost to Valve and go, can I use this? And then risk them telling everyone. Like, that isn't what you do. Now, it's true, the game-breaking element, which as far as I can tell was unintentional, that is dodgy, right? But the idea you get a sick boost, you don't. But every fan said you should do it for competitive integrity. Then, the same fans, by the way, go the opposite way. So the same fans who talk about cheating, they were cool, by the way, with the idea Skadoodle willingly took part in a fixed match that he knew was being fixed, and their best case scenario is that he apparently afterwards, which we don't actually cannot corroborate, it's just a testimony of known liars, and he didn't receive the skins. They take that to mean, oh, he like sort of like did it, but he didn't want to do it, and he never got paid. That proves he didn't, right? First of all, he still is an accessory to a crime. Do you know how the law works? You can't just like fucking be the like getaway driver and then go, well, I didn't rob the bank. Like, you're going to jail as well, mate. Maybe not for the same amount of time. Secondly, they always say, because this ties into the whole sympathy element, they always say, oh, poor Swag. Poor Swag was led into it. Swag received stolen, essentially fraudulently gained goods in exchange for committing a crime. I don't feel any sympathy for him. I feel sympathy for the length of his ban and his age, but he was an adult and he took part knowingly in a crime. Now, he can say after the fact, by the way, I didn't know and I didn't really want to do it. Then you don't accept the fucking goods, do you? You don't take the money at the end. And so my problem, the reason I'm bringing this up now, is because this is the real crux of the matter, is that the reason I will never personally think Skadoodle should have gotten away without punishment, and I do actually think he was ethically compromised, is because even if he didn't want to do it, you have a simple choice, mate. You don't play the game. You go to a journalist and you tell them. You maybe even publicly out it. You say these guys are throwing the match.
Your internet's down.
Yeah, at that point, you are not someone, if you say nothing, who hasn't done anything. You have actually, like, basically aided, in his case, directly aided evil. So in the same case, right, these players are sort of like, but, like, first of all, their angle, like you said, like, but, you know, we thought because it's Hunden, he wouldn't do it again. Right, so if Hunden murdered someone, would you go, well, he is a really cool guy, so just don't do it again, Hunden. Don't do a second murder. What are you talking about? First of all, as Lerper said, he's no way that side of a legendary figure. He has been someone very influential, but he isn't like fucking that isn't like, he's not Carrigan or fucking Glaive or Ave or someone, or Wimp, like some guys who actually were titans of Danish Counter-Strike. And secondly, that just doesn't fly with me. So I know you cheated. You're my coach, by the way. I'm going to A, allow you to coach me in the future, and B, I'm not going to ever tell anyone, including, I'm not even going to back channel it to journalists. People don't think of that detail, mate. Think about this. You don't ever have to go public with it if you're KD and Tesses, all those guys, right? What you could do is just reach out to me or Richard or someone like that privately and just go, look, I can't say anything publicly about this, but you've got to look into it. Like, basically, we know that Hunden cheated and that he did it knowingly and that the orgs come. Like, if you do that, I still don't think you've totally cleaned your conscience, but you've at least sort of like you've got some good intentions. You do want the best for the seat. They didn't do that at all. So the idea that fans now, cause of the Nico thing, as far as I can tell, and feeling sorry for them, they're now riding totally with the angle, which I'll admit I was on this bus a month ago, of it's not the player's fault at all. They couldn't have known. By the way, there were circumstances where you could not know. Like, for example, there could be a coach who was just super smart and only used it a little bit and just used it to make better calls. As far as we can tell, that is not this case, and even the players themselves are saying it. So I do think this is way more outrageous than people are implying. Like, I think on some level this is a travesty of justice.
I just like going back to what you said about, like, you know, going to journalists or something. Like, one thing that I would just point to is, like, how were these guys not concerned what was going to happen in their careers? Like, this is what they do for a living. Some of them are like 18, 19. Now they find out that their coach cheated. Like, if I'm told that, like, my coach cheated, and, like, that might also, by the way, like, if he gets caught, like, and I don't say anything, my career is probably done too, because I'm now part of the cheating ring. By the way, this is under the assumption that I didn't know before. Just saying, because that might change my actions. But, like, if I find out that my coach cheated, why would I want to continue playing with that coach? Like, these guys, like, they're living, they're, you know, they're being able to pay for their apartment, for their car, for their food. Depends upon them not being banned for something that their coach does. Why do they not at least kick the coach out? You don't have to say anything if you don't want. Say, we don't want to play with you anymore, want to get rid of you. Tell the organization there was a conflict, whatever, we're not playing with this guy anymore. You could have done that, but you didn't.
The players are definitely accessories to all of this happening, and it is inexcusable that the people kind of knew about this, it feels like, behind the scenes. Like, I've never really heard about this coach bug in North America, nor did any of the coaches I talked to know about it. It does seem like in certain circles, like in Brazil, like Brazilian coaches seem to know about it, and some European coaches knew about it, and they used it way more. That's why I don't think there was any coaches that were banned for this thing. Like, some of them knew, so you would think that there were some rumblings beneath the scenes of people knowing about this, and then for them to just kind of everybody kept it under wraps. It just makes you think that there's a greater conspiracy here regarding how many people were in on this or knew that this could have been affecting games. And I simply just can't. My biggest gripe is like, I respect Tessus so much as an individual player and his skill, but you can't just boost someone on Catwalk and then he disconnects from the server, rejoins as the coach, and not understand that something just happened because he disconnected when he was on your head, like, or he joined the coach slot when he's on your head. Like, it's so egregious.
The other thing that, like, I haven't watched the full video because I just can't put myself through that. I saw the quote and that was enough for me. I trust that was transcribed correctly. But it sounds like from the Angel TV post and the summary of the video that the game after which they found out that Hundred had used the glitch was the Astralis game. Is that you guys' understanding?
I'm not. I wasn't sure about the game.
Got it. Well, it sounded like that to me from reading, so somebody can correct me on Twitter if that's not the case. But if they did find out about it after the Astralis game, because they're talking about it talks about like talks about the game and then says like there's no team speak for the Astralis game. So I mean,
it was claimed there was only 2 games that he did it in. So in theory, it has to be after the first one, right? Yeah.
So if it's after the first one, the Spirit game is after, so there's one more game, and that's the one where he was boosted on like top of Catwalk. So like what? You get caught once, and then you ask somebody for a boost, and like, hey, help with this cool boost spot on middle of Catwalk, and I'm like, oh, let me just go to coach real quick. I'm like, it's like this is like.
Tessus, I saw enough, Coach.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
I know.
Boost works, Tessus. BRB.
Unfortunately, though, like I think the worst detail, and this podcast won't change it, let's be real, like, the people have made their mind up. The worst thing is, we always say on By the Numbers, like one of our sort of principles goes like this: we can't actually stop the bad guys. Like, for example, I can publish everything I ever find out about Nicola Nyholm. He's still going to have some success because he's not trying to con me. He's trying to con the general public. In this case, sometimes even the general Danish public, not even esports people. He's going for a totally different business world. He's going for a totally different audience than me. But the one thing I can do, and Richard can do, is we can blacken his name on some level. We can at least make people vaguely aware there's something dodgy about this guy. And you see that has actually happened. That's sort of slightly seeped into the like general consciousness about who Astralis and particularly Nicola Nyholm are. In this case, it's the worst thing of all. They're not only not going to get punished, but the community vibe is actually entirely on their side now. In fact, this is where I hate the fact that ESIC took so long and that the evidence came out in a staggered way and was constantly allowed to be characterized by other people before we got to it. Because what it means is I've even myself on podcasts said things like, wow, and how incredible they were able to play so well through all of this. Well, now I don't fucking think that at all, do I? Now I think, I wonder why they were able to play well. Because they knew they fucking did it. And they were just chilling, like, you know what, fuck it, we get banned, this might be our last CS, let's go out with a blaze of glory, boys, just frag out. Like, that's not as heroic anymore. I mean, obviously pun on the name, that's not cool anymore. Also, worst named dog of all fucking time, by the way, and everyone's also cool with that, by the way. You know the story, this is a cool detail that makes the others look fucking terrible in contrast. You know the story that supposedly Borup, who obviously was caught earlier this year, actually did go to the org and basically told them, like, I will not play for a coach who cheats. By the way, that shouldn't even be a heroic act. He is just a fucking normal human being by my standards.
Yeah, baseline.
But fair play to him. Compared to them, he looks like a hero. The idea that all the others didn't, well, that proves, by the way, that you could do that in potentially. And also, by the way, this is the thing you have to do, that calls into question if he was actually cut because they wanted him gone. There's a world in which maybe the org goes, oh, you didn't want to hang around with our cheater. By the way, we're bringing him back, so you're out of the team. You have to start asking questions like that. Like, that's the problem with having conflicts of interest like this. And then is everyone really cool just because the heroic org was sold with the fact the org themselves went out of their way at every level to cover up the cheating? Because the thing that really sticks in my craw is this. All those fans told me, because I made a tweet, if you remember, where I was sort of like, Cadian was like the biggest shit talker ever, and then he has nothing to say on this topic for months and months and months and months. And everyone just told me Maui's neck, because everyone on Reddit's a legal expert. They go, he's probably been told by his lawyers he can't talk because there might be a court case and then it might be admissible. First of all, it's not our court. Like, they aren't bringing up tweets, you fucking moron. But secondly, weirdo, the second E6 says they're not going to be punished. They all come out with all these fucking admissions, sob stories. These motherfuckers really just stayed quiet because they knew they couldn't win by doing it. They were going to get outed at some level in the end anyway. They even thought I might just get fucking go down, so why I did and they basically just sat silently. Meanwhile, people like Cadian, go and have a look on Twitter. How much fucking drama has this guy been in over the years? How many times has he had something to say about another org? By the way, I'll tell you right now, he was one of the people calling out Flashpoint when he thought we didn't handle them correctly. It's fucking rich when you have nothing to say about you and your teammates potentially cheating, because it turns out you would have been lying if you'd have said you hadn't.
The Flashpoint thing reminds me that, like, I think it is somewhat useful context. I mean, I'm just, like, kind of joking, but also, like, kind of serious in tweeting the ranking of Heroic yesterday out, where I like highlighted like the very bottom of being super far down. That was like right when the cheating took place. And like, there is some context to it, which like we don't know like what was said, what wasn't said, but like they like, if you're performing super poorly, like, we remember that, like, they were supposed to have been sold to Fun Plus. That got canceled thanks to UCSPPA, cost those players a bunch of money. That deal got canceled, and KDN posted that video where he's like walking around like Culver City, like talking, and it's like, oh, like, my Counter-Strike is like Counter-Strike career is over. We're just trying. We want to play so hard. Did all this bullshit. And then like a month later, they continue performing poorly, and then all of a sudden they start cheating. Like that is context. It might not mean anything.
It makes it look like
there is
you'd be more incentivized to do it.
Like that situation that they found themselves in.
Sure. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.